Hello, my name is Roshan Narayan, and thank you for joining us on In20. If you're watching us on YouTube, do
that back four and protect and pass the ball very, very simple. He is brilliant. If you put the leg.
I love Danny Mills because no matter where in the world he is, I'm not sure where he is right now, but he's ready to get the job done. Danny, you are coming to us live from where again?
I'm in Harrogate today. Grassroots is back. You can probably just see over there that grassroots football is back. The kids are playing for the first time. And it's fantastic to see. You know, the sun is shining. It's a little bit windy, but yeah, I think got to come out, support the kids, and it's just nice that we've got a bit of normality back. It's not quite the Etihad, it's not quite Old Trafford, but it's football, and that's the most important thing.
Absolutely right. Now, I'm not going to get into details because I know you're an extremely private person. But for those of you watching, Danny's eldest boy represents Great Britain Athletics. His other two boys are playing for Leeds and Everton, respectively. Are you a big critic? Do you shout at your boys once they're done with their practice or their games and like, you could have done better?
No. I'm very much, look, my kids come to me and say, right, what they want to do. And if they tell me they want to be a footballer, then you're all in. Now, this is how you have to be a footballer. You have to follow certain rules. You have to be disciplined. You have to have dedication, desire. If you don't want to be a footballer, I don't love you any less. If you want to go and do whatever you want, I love you exactly the same. But if you tell me you want to be the best at something, then I will help you become the best at that. And there are certain things and certain sacrifices you have to make. They make their own choices. My youngest son here, he's playing, and he's playing for fun. He's playing because he enjoys it. And that's the most important thing. My other boys are, a little bit more serious about it, at a slightly different level. But that's just life, isn't it? We all have our level, but you've got to enjoy it. That's the most important thing. But when it becomes a job, when it becomes a profession, then that's another level.
And would you say that they're better than you?
Oh, definitely. My eldest is much faster than me. My lad at Everton is technically way more gifted at 17 than I ever was throughout my whole career. But do they have the dedication? Do they have the desire? Are they prepared to make those sacrifices, put in the hard work to get where I did? Well, we shall see.
We shall see indeed. And we shall see whether a certain Liverpool player who I believe, and I strongly believe, has been one of their best players, if not the most consistent players over the past 3 to 4 years, will he be there at the end of the season? And do you know who I'm talking about? All right, the name's over there. You already know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I can read.
Do you think he'll be there next season?
I might be an ex-footballer, Roshan, but I can still read. Don't worry. No, it doesn't look like he's going to be, does it? Obviously, I think you're right. He's been fantastic. He's been consistent. He just gets on with his job, and he just does it. And I think he's the sort of player that maybe you don't appreciate until he's not there anymore. And then suddenly, when he's not there, you're like, oh, there's a big gap, in the midfield area. But I think they are going to lose him. They brought in the likes of Thiago. They've got to hope that Oxlade-Chamberlain comes back, and is fit consistently. Jordan Henderson as well is still in there. Naby Keita. They've got lots of players in that midfield area. But I think WIJNALDUM, he's maybe been a bit underrated at Liverpool.
And would you say that, and I'm just being very honest because, at the end of the day, I'm just being a football fan. He has been more consistent and better, if not for the likes of Jordan Henderson or Thiago in midfield.
Oh, definitely. And that's what I'm saying. He puts in regular, consistent performances. Occasionally, it comes up with some really important goals and has a 10 out of 10 performance. But most of the time, it's just that 7.5 out of 10, week in, week out, does his job. And that's really important. You can't have... You don't win football tournaments. You don't win league championships with 11 Mo Salahs, in the team. You've got to have a team. And he's a huge part of what Liverpool have been about the last few seasons and why they've been successful.
Would you break the bank to keep him there? Or just let him leave?
I think it depends on FSG, doesn't it? And what their wage structure is. And obviously, the whole group has had one or two issues, obviously with COVID and everything else. You get to sort of that point where how much do you give him? And if you give him loads just to keep him, then you have to start paying all the other players because they'll find out. That's what happens in football. Agents will get involved and all the other players will say, well, hang on a minute. I'm more important than him. I want more money. I want more money. I want more money. And suddenly it spirals out of control. So there has to be a point where you draw the line. And if, Wijnaldum wants too much to stay and Liverpool have made that as a business decision, well, that's up to them.
You see this a lot in the likes of Serie A or La Liga, where the best players move amongst the top clubs. It's very rare you see that in the Premier League. I mean, apart from Robin van Persie moving, you really don't see that. But if you were in his situation, would you move to the likes of, say, perhaps Chelsea or Arsenal? Forget about Arsenal. Let's not talk about Arsenal. United, Tottenham,
Well, I think if
under Jose Mourinho. Wow,
without a doubt. If he has the opportunity, why would those clubs not be interested? Normally, you find that those clubs don't want to sell to each other, but obviously, he's had a contract, hasn't he? So, this is different. He will have the choice. He will have the freedom where he wants to go. Tottenham would be a very, very good fit for him. I would suggest. There's lots of top clubs that he could quite easily, slot into. Anybody in the top six. Why not? Why would you not? Even the likes of Everton. Why would they not be interested? I know that's crossing Stanley Park and going to the blue half of Merseyside, which is maybe a little bit more unlikely. But why not? A team of that at West Ham, perhaps. Somebody like that up and coming that want to go to the next level, bringing a player of quality, bringing somebody of experience. I mean, Gini Wijnaldum will have all sorts of options, I think, on the table.
I think Diego Simeone would love a player like him. If you see the players he brings in, it's almost players of that mold, the non-stop hustle and bustle, which you cannot say about Arsenal. I don't want to, beat somebody when they're already down. But what was going on in that game? Was anything going on in that game, actually, from Arsenal's point of view?
So inconsistent, aren't they, Arsenal? So unpredictable. And I think that's the biggest worry for Mikel Arteta. It's a real problem when, you can be brilliant one week and you can get some fantastic results, like they did in the North London derby, and then they just don't turn up. And it's an abject performance. You've got to find that level of consistency. It's never easy coming back off, internationals, with players being all over the place and getting back, maybe only having a couple of days back in the building before they go into a game. But that sort of performance is not good enough. Sometimes, your passing isn't right, your finishing isn't right. But that's no excuse not to work hard, and to put in, 100% effort. And I don't think Arsenal did that.
Does this make any sense when your standard has dropped and there's no player there that can lift you to another level? The players in that dressing room get accustomed to that consistency in terms of being inconsistent and not trying to get themselves better.
Yeah, there are standards, aren't there, that you expect. And there are certain players that will instill those standards. When we often hear about how players run the dressing room and they set the standard. Who in that Arsenal dressing room is setting the standard at the moment? I'm not sure. Aubameyang will be the captain, last season, and then sort of club captain this year, whatever. He can't turn around to the rest of the dressing room and point fingers and say, come on, you need to step up. You need to start playing better, working harder, doing this, doing that, because he's not doing it at the moment. So the dressing room isn't really running itself, so to speak. It's going to be interesting what happens at Arsenal. Again, we talk about characters, talk about leadership. Arsenal are sadly lacking in that, and that's why you keep getting these huge inconsistencies in results and performances.
For you, I mean, you've heard Jose and Pep talk about Mikel Arteta and how good he is and how good he can be. Is he at the wrong team?
Well, I mean, you're only as good as your players. I think we all have to remember that. It doesn't matter how good you are as a coach, whether you're Pep Guardiola, whether you're Jose Mourinho, you're always governed by the quality of your players and the individuals that you have. You can improve them, and you can improve them maybe 15, 20%, which is quite a big margin in football. But you need good players. Generally the team with the best players wins the league. Very, very occasionally, there'll always be the anomaly. There'll always be the exception to the rule, but that's generally the case. Do Arsenal have the best players at the moment? No. They're probably, in terms of quality of players, you're probably looking at 6th or 7th in the league, but they're underperforming at the moment. Whereas somebody like a West Ham, who you'd maybe say should maybe be 8th, are overperforming at the moment. And that's maybe that 20% swing that you get from a manager. But Arsenal, when they talk about getting back into the Champions League or challenging for titles, they're way, way off it.
Okay, if United want to get back into the Champions League consistently, I do apologize, I forgot how to speak English. And if they want to challenge for the Premier League title, maybe for a season or two, like they've done with Cavani, just out of nowhere, get Kun Aguero for the next 2 years at least.
That's like Tevez going the other way, isn't it? You know, do you think the banner would be welcome to Manchester? Like Manchester City did, but in red this time. You know, it's the problem with Aguero is his injury problems. It's not about his quality. It's not about how good he is. It's can he be fit for long enough? Can he be fit enough to be reliable? You know, with all the knee injuries that he's had. You know, what's he scored 1 goal in the Premier League this season? You know, that's not because he's suddenly become a bad player or he's become a bad finisher or anything like that. His body just isn't quite up to it at the moment, you know, and that's the real problem for him.
But they did that with Michael Owen as well when they brought him in. And
yeah, but again, you know,
and he had injuries left, right, and centre, top, bottom, inside out, front to back.
That causes problems because you're bringing in a player on huge wages. You're expecting to be, you know, very, very good. And if he's not fit, other players start. You can get a little bit of resentment and going, hang on a minute. You know, Aguero is on, I don't know, 200 grand a week, and he's not playing. He's in the gym, you know, week in, week out. That's not fair. And sometimes, you know, that can grate on players. That can annoy players at times. So, as great as Aguero is, the thing is, if he was not good enough, if he was fit enough, Manchester City would be keeping him. End of. There wouldn't be an argue about that. They'd say, right, okay, stay. Here's a year's contract. You know, you've missed a year. Basically, you've missed a year through injury. We'll give you another year. Stay here. He's happy, you know, and that's the case. Now, I see lots of clubs going, oh, yeah, let's get Aguero. But how many games is he going to play next season? Are you going to get 5 starts, 10 starts? Even if he's a free transfer, you know, the wages that he's going to be on, that makes him very, very expensive.
Okay, good point, Danny. If the price was right, and with United doing this whole revamp where they want young local British players in that team, you know, to bring back the good old days, would a player such as Declan Rice fit that bill as that holding midfielder and finally solve that problem?
I think Declan Rice is going to be a fantastic footballer. He's improving all the time. You know, he's been at West Ham a long time. I'm not saying he needs to leave West Ham. And I think if West Ham get into the Champions League spots, then there's a real good chance he would want to stay, you know, and have a tilt at the Champions League with West Ham, you know, where he's been for a long time and probably feels a degree of loyalty to them as well. If they don't make it into the Champions League, I think he will have options. You know, you're looking at the likes of Chelsea, you know, obviously best friends with Mason Mount. I'm sure he's on the phone to him constantly saying, come to Chelsea, you'll improve us, we'll improve you. Manchester United, you know, would be an option. Probably not Manchester City. You know, they've got Rodri in that area, so that they're pretty much taken care of. A Liverpool, you know, would they be interested if they want to go to the next level? You know, we just talked about WIJNALDUM possibly leaving. Do Liverpool have that out-and-out holding midfield player? You know, Fabinho might have to drop back into centre half. You know, again, does Declan Rice add to them? Maybe Fabinho, if Liverpool are fit, maybe they don't need a Declan Rice. But Manchester United and Chelsea would certainly be suitors, I would say.
Okay, so the question is for you, Danny. Now you have to pick one. If I gave you Fred, Scott McTominay, or Declan Rice to start for Manchester United in that holding midfielder role, who would you go for?
You really asking that?
No, I just want a point because I'm. Everybody says I'm anti-Scott McTominay. I'm not. I think he's a good player further up front.
Declan Rice is a much better player. Declan Rice all day long. Simple as that.
And why then? You've got to explain because you have the...
Because he's a much better player.
Now, the basics, break it down. Does he read the game better? Is his positioning better? All of the above?
You know, I think defensively, he's happy to do that job. You know, he's happy just to sit there. His passing's better. His touch is better. His awareness is better. His positional sense is better. Everything about his game is better than Scott McTominay. Simple as that. More experienced, everything else. You know, now captain of West Ham, starting to become a leader, you know, playing top international football as well. Every department, he's better than Scott McTominay. Apart from, I'm not quite sure he's as tall. That's the only difference.
Hey, but that Declan Rice to Chelsea with Mason Mount, that's a really good one. I didn't see that coming. But would you be surprised if we spoke about Kun Aguero, and maybe I should have spoken about this before I went into United, but since it was all mix and match, Harry Kane for Man City, would he be good enough to play for Pep Guardiola?
Oh, without a doubt. There's no doubt he's good enough. Again, is that what Manchester City? How expensive is he going to be? At that level, what's Harry Kane? 27, 28? You've got a few years left. He would be incredibly expensive. He's also had one or two injuries as well. Are you buying? I think you're planning to buy a short-term basis if you're looking at Harry Kane. You're looking for the next year, next couple of years. Are you really going to get? Are you expecting to get 3 or 4 years out of Harry Kane at the top level? Look what's happened to Aguero. You're probably not. So is he good enough? Without a shadow of a doubt. Will he score loads of goals in the next season, maybe the next 2 seasons? Probably. But beyond that, I wouldn't be convinced. And Harry Kane's not going to move to Manchester City unless he gets a 4 or 5 year deal. He's going to want massive money for a long term if he's going to move. Because he's not going to suddenly think, well, actually, I'm going to move there for 2 years and then I'll be in my 30s on a free transfer. That ain't happening. So I think money and budget for Manchester City will play a huge part in this.
You saw Steven Gerrard during his playing days stayed loyal to Liverpool. He never won the Premier League, but he won almost everything else apart from that. Harry Kane, as you might say, is one of the best strikers England has had since the likes of Alan Shearer. Wouldn't you want to win something professionally? Apart from having a club record?
Yeah, that's what it comes down to, doesn't it? It comes down to how much do you want to win a trophy. Clearly, he's financially very, very sorted. Maybe one big contract left could take him to another level in those terms. But it depends on what he wants. He might be happy in London. He might be happy living where he lives, everything around him. He might be content. He might like that. But as you say, there must be a point where he's thinking, I'd love to win the Premier League. I'd love to win the Champions League. I'd love to win the FA Cup. Whatever that might be. Alan Shearer won 1 trophy, the Premier League. I think that was all he won domestically. Still the best striker the Premier League has ever seen. Best striker England's had. For a long, long time. Exceptional, and he's done all right off the back of it. I think it depends on Harry Kane's mentality. What does he really want? Is he desperate for trophies, or is he happy to keep playing his football, enjoying his football, and stay at Tottenham and maybe not win anything for the rest of his career?
But that doesn't doesn't that separate winners from your second tiers, your Messi's and your Cristianos who's gone and won everything everywhere, and then you got a guy like Harry Kane
it's that. Again, it depends on your character, doesn't it? It depends, what you really want. When you ever talk about, really high performing people, they're relentless. When you took up, Manchester United, win a trophy, the next morning it's forgotten because that was expected to win a trophy. They have to go and win the next one and the one after that and the one after that. I guess it depends whether you want cash in the bank or you want trophies in the cabinet. And that's only Harry Kane can make that decision.
Well, it's a worst kept secret. Raiola has been on his Euro trip everywhere for a certain Haaland. I can't believe he's going to leave Dortmund. I hope he doesn't. But if he does,
he's going to leave at some point, Roshan. Don't worry,
Yes, I know. Don't worry. We sell our best players, but that's okay. It's a part of life. We spoke about him being at Man City a couple of weeks ago, but could you imagine him at another team like Barcelona, perhaps? Oh, would you want to go to Real Madrid, though?
Why not? Does he take Real Madrid to the next level? Of course he does. He's an exceptional talent. Wherever he goes, if Barcelona, Real Madrid, Man City, Manchester United, even he's going to score 25, 30 goals plus a season. He's that good. He scores all types of goals. Whatever team he goes to, he makes them better. And they'll have players in and around him that will sign off the back of that because they'll be thinking, this puts that club to another level. Haaland's going to have an awful lot of options. He's going to be expensive because obviously the buyout clause doesn't kick in until a year later. So he might cost you 120, 150 million, but potentially could be worth it for 30 goals a season.
All right, my final question for you, Danny, is how's your arm doing? You've been holding the phone.
My arm's killing. So if there's been any shaking, people will understand why. Try and hold the phone up for 20 minutes. It's not easy, you know. It's not easy.
And that separates legends from amateurs. You are a legend, Danny Mills. Thank you so much. I shall see you next week. Get home safe, and I wish you and your sons the very best. Don't forget to catch all the highlights on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter account. Till the next time, take care.